My BF disappeared into thin air the day before I was about to pop the question, and no one knew where he went. 5 years later, I overhear my sister talking to my dad, and I'm left speechless because of what they reveal. I, 29, female, have been single for the past 5 years because my boyfriend disappeared from my life altogether 5 years ago. Since then, I've been single and haven't even tried to talk to any other man because I've still held out hope that someday, he might come back to me. I've been with my boyfriend since senior year of high school. So he and I were together for almost 6 years before he vanished. We stayed together throughout college, even though we could only meet once or twice a month because of the distance. My boyfriend and I had a happy relationship in my head, at least. And on my 24th birthday, I was about to ask him to marry me, surrounded by our friends and families. But then the day before my birthday, he literally disappeared. He said he was going to be late coming home from work, so I waited all night, but he never came back. I made countless calls and sent at least 100 texts, but there was just no response. I even tried to get in touch with his friends and family members, but they'd all blocked me. Our common friends had no idea where he could be, and some of them just told me to forget about him. So even if they knew, they didn't let me know. I couldn't find any of his social media accounts either, and it was like he just disappeared without a word overnight. I still don't know if he knew that I was about to pop the question the next day or if the timing of his disappearance just lined up. But that was it. He was gone, and there was nothing I could do about it. I even considered going to the cops to file a missing person report, but changed my mind at the last moment because he was not missing. He just didn't want to be found by me. I made a lot of fake accounts on social media under different names to find him, but with no success. He probably either deleted his accounts or he was using some other name just like me. Whatever the case was, he was untraceable. And eventually, I had to give up because I was emotionally exhausted trying to look for him despite knowing that he didn't want me to find him for whatever reason. I honestly believe that he was happy with me, and he sure played the part when we were together. So instead of moving on with my life, I chose to wait for him to come back. If not to get back to me, then only so that he could at least explain what went wrong and I could have some answers. I did try to make things work with a couple of other men and went out on a few dates, but I just found myself thinking about my ex-boyfriend whenever I was out with anyone else. So I stopped because it was just too painful for me. For almost 4 whole years, I haven't said yes to or asked out anyone on a date because I just couldn't. I'd be fine otherwise, but every time I'd even consider going out on a date, my ex's face would pop up in my head like a warning sign. So I just gave up on it. For 5 years, I've been waiting for him, and I knew it was futile, but I didn't know what else to do. I started going to therapy 3 years ago, and it helped me deal with my feelings and cope with the situation healthily. So I'm not always moping or working, but I wouldn't say that I've forgotten about him. I know it sounds pathetic, but I was really serious about him. And I couldn't believe that he just disappeared without an explanation. But 2 weeks ago, I overheard a conversation between my sister, 33 female, and my father, 62 male, when we were visiting him. My sister doesn't live here. She moved to Canada for work when she was 22 and has stayed there ever since. She comes back twice a year for a couple of weeks, but that's about it. This time, though, she's been here for at least a month now because our father is really sick. He's been diagnosed with heart disease, and it's serious. So while my sister was supposed to go back 2 weeks ago, she decided to stay on. My sister and I have been on good terms, but we've never been close per se, and it's mostly been because of the distance. We used to be friends as kids, but then she left for college and we lost touch. Then she went away to Canada and built a life for herself there, and I stayed here. So there wasn't much scope for us to ever reconnect, but we've been getting along well ever since she came back. It was nice to have her here even if it was for our father's sake. Last week, I went over to my father's place to drop off some soup for my mom because she'd said she'd be late, and I had a spare set of keys as well so that my father wouldn't have to come to the door to open it. I went in quietly and was about to enter my dad's room to check up on him, but I stopped in my tracks and froze when I heard my dad and sister in there talking about my ex. My ex had a really unique name, and we didn't know anyone else by that name. So I was sure that it was him that my dad was asking about. He asked my sister when she was bringing him and the kids down here because he wanted to see them once since he was getting too old and sick to travel now.